Hey friends, this is Scott Sullivan, Discipleship Catalyst, Georgia Baptist Mission Board, and I'm joined by a Hollywood square of folks. This is a combination of our discipleship team here at the Georgia Baptist Convention, and they're set out all over the 6 regions, but also we've got it's a great announcement of what's happened today. It was the Georgia Baptist Association of Christian Educators, GBACE, is becoming GBDN, Georgia Baptist Disciple Makers Network, and we're going to talk about that and let some of the leaders talk through the name change. And I just want to remind you that, as always, we're going to give away some free things, so make sure that you drop a comment in the chats below. Let us know where you're from, if you have any questions for the panel, and we will we'll be engaging with you in the chats as well. So this is really important, this topic, because what we're doing in Georgia is creating a movement, a powerful movement of disciple makers, to where we're not just talking about things, not just doing broadcasts, not just writing or reading books, but we are trying to create disciple makers who in turn create disciple makers, flesh this thing out. And then what we'll see is a growing movement of believers who walk with the Lord and are exponentially sharing that as well. So I'm going to bring in at this point Chris Sanchez. He's our president for GBACE, now Georgia Baptist Disciple Makers Network. And Chris, you can give us just a second, tell us where you're from and what you're doing. And we also have John Spencer down in our Southwest region. He's joining because he's going to be also the president coming up when we transition here in just a little bit. So Chris, why don't you tell us just a little bit about what your church is, so folks will have some context about what you're doing down in your church, and then John, you can follow that with what you're doing there at Sherwood.
Thanks, Scott. I am at Northside Baptist Church, and we are located in Valdosta, Georgia. A lot of people pass through our part of the state on their way to Florida, going to the beach, that kind of thing. We're about 20 miles or so north of the Georgia-Florida state line, and we are right just outside of downtown Valdosta. So we are in the city here doing ministry.
Awesome. And John, you're in Sherwood.
Right. I'm at Sherwood in Albany, Georgia, and I do family ministry and discipleship ministry and whatever else the pastor decides I need to do. And so I've been here a while doing that.
Awesome. And great to have both of you. Now, you'll see some other pretty faces scattered along the squares here, and super excited to have you all. These are board members for Georgia Baptist Disciple Makers Network and some of our discipleship catalysts. So they are here in support, but also can answer any questions. They'll be in the chats as well. Now, our group exists to strengthen churches by resourcing, inspiring, and creating disciple makers. And that creates a sweet spot for us where we are doing this together, because some people will look at this, Chris, and they would see GBDN as a group that's out there in the Georgia Baptist Convention as a separate group, and think maybe there are 2, but really we are of the same heart, and we are sister brother organizations. We are one.
That's right. We're Georgia Baptist Association of Christian Educators for years has been bringing together ministers of education in Georgia Baptist churches from across the state. But in more recent years, churches have kind of moved away from that model. You've still got people in our churches that are they're making disciples. They're in discipleship ministries, family ministries. Some churches call them. Different churches call them different things. But we're doing the same things. We have a heart to see Christ followers in a deeper walk with Christ, deeper fellowship with one another, and we want to equip those folks. We want to network those folks together, and that's kind of the heart of the name change from Georgia Baptist Association of Christian Educators to Georgia Baptist Disciple Makers Network. We want to help kind of move our organization back to our roots of connecting those people in those disciple making ministries and churches across Georgia.
That's good. And I remember, Chris, when we were at the annual meeting last year, you and I were sitting there talking, and I think Don was there with us, Don Yarborough here on the screen. And we were talking, and somebody walked up and said, we had the GBACE sign up there, and they walked up and said, hey, we're homeschool. Are you guys an outfitter for that? How could we sign up to maybe get some of your resources? And Don, we didn't know what to say, right? it was really interesting. But that was part of the struggle there with the name. So I guess there are probably some other things that will help us with the name change as well. But John, when we talk about changing the name, it's not just a name change, because things really on how this organization operates and what it looks like going forward change as well. Can you help our viewers understand what that looks like?
We're excited. We are, again, when you think about the Georgia Baptist, almost a convention, but the Georgia Baptist and the GBACE, or now a GBDN, we have always been joined at the hip. And so going forward with the new structure of the Georgia Baptist Mission Board in the 6 regions, I'm excited that we'll be able to mirror that within what we're doing, and guys can network within that. Because I think one of the strongest aspects of what we do is putting guys together. It's so, a pastor, or, whether he's a pastor of a church, or whether he's even a bivocational pastor, whether he's coming in as a discipleship guy, youth guy, whoever, can find somebody else to knock ideas off of and talk to, and just really, hey, here's what's happening for me. Have you got any ideas I can use? Because let's be honest, regions are different. What works in Albany may not work anyplace else. And so if I get guys that are around this area to connect together and to network, it helps all of us. And so it's something I think going forward that will be just, it's going to be a good partnership with Georgia Baptist. And it's also going to be a good thing for local communities as well. And then, you think about the aspect of just having guys who can kind of hold you accountable too. Let's be honest, sometimes in our churches, you can't complain down, and you can't speak your heart sometimes down. And so it's good to have guys that you can call and say, man, can I just talk to you a minute? Can you pray for me? And so I think those are important relationships that we've got to foster to make our ministries effective in our communities.
That's good. And Chris, I think about, just kind of bouncing off his idea just there, I think about how this is going to look going forward. I think about the annual conference, because this has been a really successful and helpful tool that GBACE has provided, a place where we as disciple makers, and when I say that, understanding that there are pastors, there are associate pastors, there are discipleship, there are ministers of education, all across the board as far as what people do in the local church, can come to this event, have been coming there to get encouraged, but also to be retooled and equipped to do what we do in discipling our people. So Chris, tell us just briefly how that's going to look for next year, for 2021, because we also know that the mothership, the national base organization, is going to actually be here in Georgia, currently planned to be at Burnt Hickory, assuming we can even meet face to face in March, April. So what are your thoughts on that, Chris?
Well, we knew that we probably needed to move our meeting out of January. When we originally started meeting in January, there was really nothing on the church calendars in January. So it was a convenient time for the disciple makers in our churches to be able to come together and whatnot. Now, January is a very crowded kind of month and whatnot. So as we were talking through that, we realized that the national organization BASE is having their meeting in Atlanta in 2021. And so our thought is, hey, wouldn't it be great if we could schedule our meeting and kind of piggyback with the national organization? We could have people come in, attend the GBACE, now GBDN national or annual meeting, and then stay over a day for the national meeting as well. And what a great time that would be to network with folks in Georgia, outside of Georgia, as well as being retooled from the local experts that we've got here in the state with the mission board, and other speakers that we would bring in, and the speakers that the national organization would bring in. So just an excellent opportunity to really bring people together and really equip them.
Yeah, and I was the president of BASE last year, so one of the things that was really important to me was if we could get it here in Georgia. I'm now in Georgia. I knew that there was an incredible BASE, one of the strongest, when I say BASE, B-A-S-E, foundations of disciple makers in the nation exist here in Georgia. So I just knew if we could get it here, I knew that we could knock it out of the park as far as getting our people on board and providing a product that people outside of Georgia would even want to drive in and be a part of, assuming that we can even do it face to face. So we're excited to be in Georgia. We'll see what happens there. We can give more details on what that looks like and when, and whether it's going to be a face to face or virtual or some hybrid, but super excited about that. Now, John, you mentioned something a while ago about people being able to get together in these regions, and if there is a sweet spot that exists, this is it. And we call them learning communities. So the disciple makers in our state can get together, and what we're trying to create are 4 to 6 of these learning communities per region. And they're going to be able to get together, do several things. One of those is going to be able to just chew on resources, ask questions. Here's what we're trying. We did this and it failed. I'd like to do this. Have y'all ever done that? Man, I just remember, John, I was 29 years local church in Louisiana before I came here, and I can still remember 20 of those 29 years looking around and just feeling like I was all by myself, that I was trying things that nobody else was trying. I was thinking ways that nobody else was thinking, and I didn't have anyone to ask questions or to say, man, that's a bonehead idea. Why in the world would you try that, right? So a lot of my stuff was trial and error, but we are creating, and I just think it's one of the most incredible opportunities that exist on the planet to be a part of these learning communities with heroes like you that are in these squares who have lots of experience where we can get together, pray together. So John, tell us just your thoughts on that, because how do you see these learning communities beneficial? Because I know you've even had some experience with this that you and I talked about.
Well, yeah, thinking back, and when I started here 20 years ago, I was trying to figure out what to do, how to do. I was learning, and I was fortunate in that they used to have what they called ME boot camps at Ridgecrest every year, and so went to one of those. And what's funny is I got to know a guy who was a minister of education here in my own town, and his name was Charlie Brown. And so Charlie and I met at boot camp in Ridgecrest, but we were across town from one another. Became a friendship that I still have today, and somebody that I could bounce ideas off of and go to lunch with and talk to. And it was important to know that I wasn't, he had some of the same questions and things that I did, and he had a lot more experience than I did. He introduced me to GBACE. He's the one that got me introduced to GBACE back in the day. So, that was important to me. And I think those relationships, we shouldn't have to go outside to find somebody across town. There are guys that exist near us that can, again, come alongside, partner with us, give us the boost we need, give us ideas. It's working together. And I think, we are not competitors. We are all working toward a kingdom goal. And so I think if we can put people together in communities of learning to where they are like-minded and say, how can we grow the kingdom in our region? And that's beneficial to everybody.
It is. I think it's huge, John, and you hit a good point. This networking, the connecting, and a big part of this, I'm just going to shoot straight with you. Informational. We want to get information to people. We want to train. We want to resource together. But this is so much more than informational. It is relational.
Yes.
And one of the things that I hope that if you're watching, I want you to lean in for just a moment, because this is just one of those personal things for me. I am tired of seeing our friends and our heroes fall. We want a group of people. We want to create these learning communities where we are relationally connected and that we finish well. We have got to come together and ask hard questions and keep each other accountable so that I bet you no less than a half dozen of mine, when I say friends, I'm talking about core, inner circle, pick up the phone in the middle of the night friends, have fallen in the last decade. And most of those no longer even in ministry anymore because they chased something they shouldn't have. Their name was found on something it shouldn't have been found on or whatever. So friends, I can't encourage you enough with these learning communities. Every single one of us needs to be in those. We need to promote those. We need to gather our friends and our networks and get them involved in those. So it's not going to be just great conversation, but it's going to be great relationships. And John, I even think about you when you had your car wreck, it got spread out. John's been in a wreck, he's hurt. And that group of us immediately, like white blood cells, just circled. And we were praying for you, and we were calling you, and we were texting you. We wanted you to know you are not alone. And that's what we want to happen in the state of Georgia. We want to create these learning communities where people know that they're not alone, and we have those tools where we can grow in the Lord, but also finish well together. So friends, thank you so much for being here. And this panel is incredible. So what we really want you to do in the comments below, there's a couple of ways that you can join these learning communities. If you're interested, just drop it. Just say, I'm at whatever city or church, and then we can figure out what region you're in, and we can get one of these board members in touch with you, or one of our Discipleship Catalyst consultants in contact with you, and so that you can know where they're going to meet and go ahead and get those going. Or on our website, GABaptist/discipleship, if you go to our website, our list of all of our leaders are on there with their phone numbers and emails. You can contact them, and they'll give you all the information you need about these learning communities. And as always, you can call the Georgia Baptist Mission Board. Just ask for Scott Sullivan, and they'll carrier pigeon will come get me, and I will either be on the phone with you or I'll call you back same day. Because our deal, well, our team is, if you contact us, you will get a phone call or some kind of contact within 24 hours. That's our standard go-to for our organization. So thank you so much, guys. Dawn Schaefer, Tim Smith, Chris Sanchez, Ray Sullivan, Mark Ward, PJ Dunn, David Smith, John Spencer, Chris Rainey, Don Yarborough, and Matthew Gibbs. Thank you for joining and being a part of this. And again, if you have any questions, put them in the chats below. And if you haven't chatted already or commented, make sure you do that, because we're giving away some really cool stuff this week. And let me just say a closing word. Many of you have called and been texting about the Spark Conference. How'd it go? Whatever. It was incredible. Okay. So if you haven't heard about all those things, it was 16 different countries, 45 different states, over 2,700 individual users registered. By the time we have the 204 host sites, we're looking at between 6,000 and 10,000 people are trained through the Spark Conference. So still time if you want to go to the sparkconference.com to get in on that for the free session. But also if you want it for a year, you can pay like $10 or $29 for a church, and you can have access to all of that for 12 months. So thanks so much. We'll see you next time here at Georgia Baptist Discipleship.